buy one investment and simultaneously sell it in another market for profit exists in the absence of uncovered interest rate parity.
You guys understand? So the interest rate parity it states that if in US the interest is 10% and in China if it is 20%, it says that if interest rate parity holds, whether you invest in US or whether you invest in China, you will be ended up earning. If you invest in US, you ended up having a return of 10%. And if you invest in China, when you convert back, you proceed to US, you also ended up earning 10%. Why is that? Because then currency gonna be depreciated by 10%, right? That's why it says uncovered. In order to get more profit, then how you can cover this position? By buying in advance forward to eliminate this exchange.
But sir, let me ask you something. Is it always like this? For example, if I do it now, so in 1 year, the Chinese yuan will depreciate by 10% against dollar?
Yes.
Okay.
If interest rate parity holds 100%, right? The theory said it will depreciate by 10%, but in reality, maybe it depreciate by 2% or maybe 5%, right? We'll talk about
or maybe
this.
Appreciate. Yes, I mean,
No,
I will.
It can never
I
be.
will have risk.
It can never be appreciated unless. Okay, we'll talk about in coming slides this concept. Because if I talk about here, then the concept going to be very messy.
Okay.
I think in 2 or 3 slides we will talk about this. Why it doesn't hold, right? So if it holds 100%, if it holds, then what happened? Which currency going to be depreciated? Home currency interest rate minus foreign currency. When you talk about this, 10% is and 20% is Chinese. Answer will be negative 10%. Negative 10% means the foreign currency, which is Chinese yuan, going to be depreciated. So you earn here 20%. When you convert back your money here, you will be losing 10%, and you ended up earning 10%. So why to hire a person who will assist you to invest in China? You paid a cost here. And then when you receive your yuan after 1 year, then you hire another person so that he can convert your yuan into dollar and then send back here. You also pay some cost to them as well, right? So if interest rate parity holds 100%, whether you invest in US, whether you invest in China, you will ended up earning the same amount. Let me just change the color here. If you are here in China, right? Even if you invest here and earn 10%, then what happened? Because due to this one, the equation changes. The home currency minus foreign currency. Now the home currency is Chinese. 20% minus 10%. It means the dollar gonna be appreciated with 10%, and when you convert back your return to Chinese yuan, then you will be ended up earning this 10% plus 10% of currency appreciation. So no matter where you are, you ended up earning the same return, right? Okay, now, Nicola, your question. So let's talk about this. Then why the interest rate parity doesn't hold. Number one, I think that we will talk about later. Okay, but this one is as well. Due to political risk as well, a crisis in the foreign country could cause its government to restrict any exchange of local currency to other currencies. What if, Nicola, what if the China says that you cannot convert back your return to US? So you stuck here. You wanted to earn this 20%, and now you cannot. You take back your money. Plus, if the Chinese say that no foreigners can invest here, then you cannot exploit this interest rate parity opportunity. Plus, there are transaction costs, right? You want to invest in China, you go to the consulting firm or your financial analyst, you are paying them money or some brokerage fees, right? And you invest here, and then after 1 year, when you try to convert back from Chinese yuan to US yuan, you also paying some transaction cost. So that's why, what if US is giving you 10% and China is giving you 12%, but the transaction cost is 5%, 2.5% here, and then 2.5% when you convert back your money here. So you basically ended up earning how much? 7%. Rather, earning 12%, you pay transaction cost 5%. So you must consider the transaction cost as well. The third one is different tax laws. Here we go. In US, maybe on the interest rate, your charges are just 10% tax rate. But in China, maybe it is 30% on the tax earning, or maybe 40% or whatsoever, right? So this interest rate parity does not provide you the transaction cost, does not account for the political risk, and does not account for the difference in taxation, right? What we talk about this interest rate parity hold, keeping all other things constant, right? So if everything is constant, we have no transaction cost, no political risk, no taxes differences, then what happened? Wherever you invest, you ended up earning the same return. That's it. Nicola, now you understand that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now we are moving to chapter 8, in which we talk about the purchasing power parity, and then we talk about the international Fisher effect, and then we compare these theories. So remember what we talk about? IRP, which is interest rate parity, in which we talk about that the forward premium is going to be affected by the difference between home interest rate and foreign interest rate. And we talk about this, whether you invest in your own country, whether you invest in other country, if the interest rate parity holds, keeping all other things constant, then what happened? You ended up earning the same return wherever you are. Let's talk about chapter 8, which is purchasing power parity. So there are two kinds of purchasing power parity: absolute purchasing power parity and relative purchasing power parity. Absolute purchasing power parity, when you have no international barrier, any kind of barrier, restrictions, when there is no restriction, keeping all other things constant, then you talk about this purchasing power parity. So the short form is PPP, triple P. Consumers shift their demand to wherever prices are lower. Prices of the same basket of products in the two different countries should be equal when measuring in common currency. So relative means when there are some restrictions or due to market imperfection, prices of same basket of the product is different in different countries will not necessarily be the same, but the rate of change in prices should be similar when measuring in common currency. So there are just two kinds of or two categories of purchasing power parity in absolute. So the the basket which is used for CPI or consumer price index, which basically measure the inflation, they are same, right? But every country has its own basket to calculate inflation. So that's why mostly we will be talking about relative form of purchasing power parity. So let's talk about this. The purchasing power parity. Exchange rate adjustments is necessary for the relative purchasing power to be same whether buying products locally or from another country. If purchasing power is not equal, consumer will shift purchases to wherever products are cheaper until purchasing power is equal. What does it mean? It says, now I'm here writing inflation. It says whether you are here in country A, whether you are country B, the purchasing power of both country are the same. How? If inflation is, for example, 10% in A and 5% in B, and how it is same? They say that then the exchange rate will make them equal. How? The difference is 5%. Then currency will adjust this purchasing power. So similarly, like interest rate parity, wherever you invest, you will ended up earning the same return. This holds that wherever you are, your purchasing power is the same. Why? Because then the exchange rate will be adjusted itself. So we will be having some kind of example, then it will further clarify your understanding. So here we go. The relationship between, remember, this is the exchange rate of foreign. Many students confuse whether this is home exchange rate or foreign. So this is foreign currency will appreciate or depreciate depending on inflation in home country and inflation in foreign country. So the simplified form is that the foreign exchange will appreciate or depreciate. The formula is home country's inflation minus foreign country's inflation. If you are here and inflation is 10% here, and in China it is 13% here, right? Then Chinese yuan, because foreign, you are here, for you foreign currency is yuan. So I should write, it will be appreciated or depreciated? Answer is depreciated. If you are here, then your purchasing power is the same with respect to Chinese. Why? Because Chinese currency will now depreciate. Or if you are here, then what happened? Chinese will say that, look, our purchasing power will be same with the US. Why? Because when you convert back the US dollar will appreciate it by 3%. So your purchasing power is the same with the United States.